Welcome to Odin III, a grubby little mining world on the dark and dusty backside of nowhere. It's a world where everything that's worth having is already owned by Galactic Mining, and where people come to squander their hopes and lives working for the company and dreaming of striking it big. It's also a world where strange, weird, and fantastic things happen, as in this story from the Odin Chronicles. Weber's Place, narrated by Seth Bloom, written by Pete Wood.
A guy walks into a bar. I'd heard them all since I took over Weber's Place for my dad. The best bar on Odin III. At least I thought so. And something not run by the Catholic Church or Galactic Mining. The door opened and the cold air hit me like a slap in the face. A stray cat I let into the bar on cold nights arched its back and bolted into the back storeroom. Ray Cornwall limped inside. The old man took his usual seat, not too far from Susan Musa, the only other customer in the joint. Tuesday nights were slow. "First drink's on me," I said to Ray. I grabbed a bottle of beer from the fridge, the good stuff, my stock from Earth. There weren't many of the original settlers left. I figured I owed him. Ray shook his head. "No thanks, Ingrid." "Rain check?" I asked. It wasn't like Ray to turn down a beer. "Ever tell you how I got this limp?" Ray asked. Only a million times, but I pretended he had never mentioned it before. "Don't believe so, Ray." I returned the bottle to the fridge. Susan just stared out into space and nursed her Tom Collins. She didn't talk much. Not since Galactic fired her. Not since she started messing with those weird mushrooms that grew deep underground. Sometimes she seemed to see things that nobody else could see. I was glad I wasn't alone with her. Nights like tonight, she gave me the creeps. Ray took off his frayed wool cap and set it on the empty stool beside him. "Me and my buddy Hans, we were testing the new space drive. Tried to make it to Odin II, but things got weird. Things got translucent, transparent. Then Hans just disappeared." He scratched his head. 52 years ago. I never had believed this part of the story. Hans had disappeared for 5-10 seconds and then came back mad as a hatter. The reliability of the early faster-than-light drives was common knowledge. The relativity effect had been all over the map, with some settlers arriving up to 50 years after other ships with the same launch date. But nobody had ever vanished off a flight, and then Hans supposedly crashed the ship on purpose. I half-listened. He died. I was in traction for a year. Damn Galactic never even gave me disability. This part of the story I believed. Galactic had been screwing all its colonies for over 100 years. Ray survived on alcohol and handouts. He tried prospecting for a while, but that hadn't worked out. They're assholes, Ray. You sure you don't want that beer? "No, I can't. I already told you," Ray snapped. Then in a quieter tone, "He's coming. Gotta be sharp." "Who's coming?" "Hans. I can feel it. Haven't felt this way since the flight. Must be a residual from the window. Been getting stronger. It's here. Tonight." Ray had finally lost it. Hans had been dead since my dad started the bar, or maybe it was just Ray's age catching up to him. He had to be in his 70s. "I'd like to meet him," I said. Another blast of cold air. Constable Jenkins walked up to the bar. "Give me some of that aviator ale." "On the house," I said. I'd have to order more of her favorite craft beer. Not a good idea to run out of protection payments. Jenkins grabbed a seat by the door and took off her heavy overcoat. A Galactic supervisor, Popov, joined her a couple of minutes later. I brought a beer over, locally brewed this time. "Thanks," Popov said. The door opened. Another blast of cold air. The wind whistled. A young guy in one of those old-style flight suits. He looked confused. "Get you a drink, mister?" I asked. I hadn't seen him before. Strangers were damn uncommon this far from Earth. He didn't respond. His eyes had a wild, scared look like an animal caught in a trap. Ray jumped up with energy he hadn't shown in years. He grabbed the stranger by the shoulders. "Hans, it's okay. You're going to be fine." "What?" "It's me, Ray Cornwell." Hans blinked. Jenkins just drank. Heaven forbid she'd do her job when a delirious guy wandered into my bar. Ray kept talking to Hans, his words coming out at a furious pace. You're married to Barbara. You're trying to have a kid. You came here from Dresden. You've been on Odin III for 2 years. You and I are testing the new hyperdrive. A glint of recognition hit Hans. Ray? Ray nodded. Tears ran down his face. I'm older now. Listen, for God's sake, listen. You're in the future. You'll only be here for a little while. The rift or window or whatever the hell that drive open is going to snap you back. But you got to stay calm. You have to let me land the ship. Do you understand? Hans hesitated for a second. Let you land the ship. Don't touch the controls! Ray grabbed a coaster off the bar and scrawled something on it. Take this. It'll prove you're not crazy when you get back. Hans looked at the coaster. Let Ray land the ship. Then Hans shimmered. Not much happens in Weber's place. Just me and Susan tonight. The door opened. Ray and Hans walked in. They'd been running the deli across the street since before I was born. Some of the last of the original settlers. Get you two something? I asked. Sure, Ray said. 2 stouts. The earth stuff. Hans is buying. You ever gonna pick up a bar tab? Hans laughed. Ingrid, I ever tell you about the time I saved Hans's life? Ray asked. I should have just let you crash the ship, Hans said. I would have saved a fortune in beer. I pulled 2 cold earth stouts, the good stuff, out of the fridge and set them on the bar. You're looking a lot better tonight, Ray. Glad that limp is gone, Susan said, her first words since she'd ordered her drink an hour ago. Good to see you, Hans. Haven't seen you in years. We were here yesterday, Ray said. Thanks, Susan, Hans said. I know what you mean. Well, I don't, Ray said. Leave her alone, Hans said. Just leave her alone. Ray muttered something about mushrooms and picked up his beer.
Weber's Place, written by Pete Wood, narrated by Seth Bloom. The Odin Chronicles was published by Stupefying Stories and Rampant Loon Press. Bruce Bethke, publisher. Pete Wood, story editor. Jonathan Sherwood, assistant story editor. Carol Sheena, assistant story editor. Post-production by Roll Gorman's Imaginator Studio.